Hello everyone, welcome back to At Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease. So today we are diving into a fascinating figure in media and cultural study, John Fiske, a name every mass communication student must know. We will explore how audience create meanings, how media is structured using different codes, and how Fiske believed that watching TV is much more than just entertainment. Let's decode media together. John Fiske was a British media scholar and professor. He's best known for his book like The Television Culture of 1987, Understanding Popular Culture and Reading the Popular. That means understanding popular culture, reading the popular culture, power plays, power work. The dates are written over here. So, in simple words, he asked, do audience passively consume TV or do they actively create their own meanings? Spoiler, Fiske believed in the power of the audience. So I am giving a spoiler that Fiske gives the power of the audience, how the audience is behaving. So now we are studying the about the culture, about the cultural study, the media culture, the newspaper, the cinema, the radio, the television, the books, how this culture is affecting, how this culture is creating the media, the perception of the audience. Yesterday we have talked about the reception theory of Stuart Hall, where we have discussed about the dominant reader, the negotiated reader, the oppositional reader. But today we will be focusing on John Fiske. Mainly today we will be focusing on John Fiske, where we have studied the name of the books. Now, first of all, we will be talking about semiotic democracy. One of Fiske's most important concept is semiotic democracy. What is the meaning of semiotic democracy? It means we the audience are not passive. We interpret and remix media in our own way. We interpret the media the way we like to create it. Now let's think about memes. A movie scene from Game of Thrones or Gaddar 2 becomes a funny meme with totally new meanings, right? So we create the actual meaning, the semiotic democracy. Democracy means the people. And the John Fiske introduced the term semiotic democracy. That means the fans are writing Harry Potter, where Voldemort becomes the good guy. This is semiotic democracy. That means semiotic democracy means the audience can choose what they are seeing, the audience can choose the ending, the audience can remake it in their own way. Suppose you imagine the fans of Harry Potter are creating a fiction that Voldemort, we all know Voldemort is not the hero, Voldemort becomes a good guy. This semiotic democracy audience create meaning from old text. This is called semiotic democracy of the audience. So media is like a playground and we are the players. This is democracy. We know in democracy it's for the people, by the people. Hence this media is also someone is creating the content, but it is on the audience how they are perceiving it, how they are receiving the action. Now semiotic disobedience, in the next section where we will be understanding that he introduced the term semiotic disobedience. Now imagine the audience rebels against the intended meaning, the meaning which has been given, the audience is rebelling about the intended meaning. That's called semiotic disobedience. It's not just creative, it's political. Take the McDonald's logo turned into a protest sign about unhealthy food, or fashion brand's logo twisted to talk about exploration. It's when audience says we don't accept our message, we will make our own. So media is also a battleground, not just a playground, right? Media is considered also a battleground. From what we can see that semiotic democracy, the first term introduced by John Fiske, semiotic democracy. Then we talked about the act of semiotic disobedience. Now what we will be understanding about mechanical media. What is mechanical media? Fiske also spoke about mechanical media like the radio, the TV, the photography. They are different from handmade or artistic form because they rely on machines. The artistic, the art, photography is also an art, right? So with the use of camera we are doing photography, but art is done by the art papers, by the pens, by the painters, by the pencil, by the colors. So mechanical media, it's like the radio, TV, photography. They are different from handmade or artistic form. Just remember, they are different from handmade and artistic form because they rely on machine to reproduce content. A photographer from a camera versus a painter made by hand manual. Fiske said the technology used shapes the meaning produced. Technology is actually shaping the meaning which they produced. Let's understand the code of John Fiske about. What is code? What do you mean by code? Do you know what is code? We are habituated with the term coding. But what is code? How we are coding certain things. Coding can be done by many ways. As far as John Fiske's code is concerned, let's understand code. Codes are like media language. They tell us how media is structured. There are many types of code. You can see there are many types of codes which we will be discussing now. So in this particular part, what we will be understanding right now, what is the meaning of code? First of all, saying that codes are like media languages. They tell us how meaning is structured. There are many types. First of all, it's the presentation versus representational code. They are talking about the presentation versus the representational code. Presentation codes like life, body language, tone, expression, the tone, how I am speaking, and the body language, which I cannot show right now because my front camera is not visible. So it represents, right, how we are representing, how we are presenting. And representation, how we are presenting, is the face value, the life, the body language, the tone, the expression. And the representational tone is the symbol or words that stands in front of something. Example, a teacher speaking in class uses representational code like voice, like gesture. A textbook uses representational codes like words, like diagrams. Very important. Next, we have restricted or elaborated code. Restricted means simple, shared, everyday talk. And elaborated means complex, detailed, like formal writing. So let's take another example. In a Bengali family saying, "Tumi bujhte parcho na." You are not understanding. आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. Without context might make sense. That is restricted code. That means if I am stating a phrase, you are not understanding. तुम्ही बुझते पारछो ना, आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. Without context, it might make sense that someone can't understand any particular point of time. But explaining every step in an email or essay would be elaborated code. That means restricted code is a random phrase, and elaborated code means, suppose I am teaching my student how to do Premiere Pro, how to edit audio. I will be instructing as, open the software, open Adobe Premiere Pro. Now wait for 5 seconds, wait for 10 seconds, wait for 1 minute according to the RAM of that particular system, according to the hard drive, according to the SSD, according to the speed of that system. I will be instructing my student, open Premiere Pro. Now wait for the software to respond. The moment I have said that open Premiere Pro, wait for the software to respond. Now create a new project. Now name the project. Now go to the timeline. Now import the files. So I am giving instruction. I am elaborately giving instruction. The moment I am elaborately giving instructions, that code is known as complex, detailed, like formal writing. It's the elaborated code. And restricted code is simple. Now moving forward to the next part, that is the broadcast versus, what we'll be understanding, the broadcast versus narrow code. The broadcast versus narrow code: broadcast for mass audiences, simple and familiar. And narrowcasting, the term narrowcasting is for a niche group. I am narrowing my group, right? Niche group, more complex, requires background knowledge. A TV serial like the Annapurna use broadcast code. A film analysis podcast in English about Satyajit Ray might use narrowcast code because serial is for mass production, but the podcast, certain deep level podcast, is not for mass public, is not for the targeted audience, is not for the mass targeted audience, it for a niche. That means the moment I am talking about narrowcast code, that means I am making it more narrower, I am making the target audience narrower. And the moment I am talking about broadcast code, I am making the target audience wider. Getting it? The moment I am talking about a narrowcast code, it's I am taking a niche, I am narrowing it. The moment I am telling it's a broadcast code, it means it for everyone, it for the general mass. So about now we will be talking about that arbitrary logical code. What is arbitrary logical code? Logical code means the symbols with fixed meaning. Example, red means stop. It is the arbitrary, it is the logical code. Now if we talk about aesthetic code, aesthetic code is something different. It opens to interpretations like poetry, art or fashion. Kavi कहना क्या चाहते हैं, what the speaker wants to speak. It's the unpredictable and varied definition. It's a dynamic connotation. It's indexical. It's disagreement among signifier and signified. What is signifier and signified? That we will be studying here in Faridandi Sasur's that's study of semiotics. This is very much deep. Studying this code is very much deep, and we are proud that mass communication is teaching us to understand code. This is from the understanding literature part as well. So arbitrary logic and aesthetic code states that if we talk about arbitrary logic is logical, symbolism is fixed, that means red means stop, green means go. But if we talk about the aesthetic code, it opens to interpretations like the pottery, the art or the fashion. Example, a stop sign is logical, a Tagore painting is aesthetic. You might interpret something else, I might interpret something else. Alright, so now we will be talking about Bardiac television. What is Bardiac television by Fiske? This is very deep, right? Fiske and John Hartley coined the term Bardiac television. TV acts like a bird, an old-time storyteller in villages. It shapes national identity by telling collective stories. It actually shapes national identity. How? By telling collective stories. Now think of the show how like Ramayana, Mahabharata or Kaun Banega Crorepati bring people together. These shows create a shared culture. Even when people watch alone in their homes, they're sharing the culture, right? Now, so what do we learn today? John Fiske believed audience have power. We are not robots, we are not AI. We play with meanings, we resist, we remix, and media is full of codes. Media is full of codes. It's about the audience, it's about the democracy of the audience, how we are interpreting, how the audience are interpreting. Once you start decoding them, the film study is all about codes. The different camera angles states different meaning, the different sound effects gives different meaning, right? So John Fiske believe audience have power. We are no robots. We play with meanings, we resist, we remix. Sometimes words spoken are misinterpreted as well, right? So, and media is full of codes. Once you start decoding them, you never watch TV the same way again. You never watch content the same way again. So this was it with today's lecture, quick revision series of about John Fiske. We have understood the few books about John Fiske and the dates, and then we have talked about the semiotic disobedience, then we have talked about the code, we have talked about different types of codes. Further, we have talked about the Bardic television by Fiske and Hartley. So it was it with today's lecture. Don't forget to like, comment your favorite example of semiotic democracy and subscribe for more deep dives into media theory. See you tomorrow. Thank you for connecting at Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease.